The Greens party now is even more extreme, actually by some measure, than it was when Rudd and Gillard were in office. This is now quite an extreme anti-Semitic element to the Greens that is far more emboldened than it ever was before. Now, let's look at Chris Bowen. He's been pushing ahead recently with his, electric vehicle push. But then he's gone and told the ABC that he'd consider what he calls sensible ideas from the car industry on how best to roll out the policy. Look, Basil, you don't know what Chris Bowen calls sensible might not be what the car industry is calling sensible.
Well, we know that it's much, much harder to achieve than initially had been thought, or at least in terms of the practicality of getting to where you need to get to with electric cars. It's nowhere near as easy as people might have hoped. We know that because the big manufacturers are telling us. Even if you don't believe them, you can have a look at what's happened in other countries. And the exposed form tells us that it is just not that easy. So, as a result, we do need to temper back the expectations. We need to understand that this sort of galloping away to everything being electric is not going to be anywhere near as easy and as practical and as quick as we thought, and we need to find new and more achievable levels. And that is the challenge for the government and certainly for the Environment Minister. What are the right targets that we can achieve and that aren't going to cost us all a fortune trying to get there? That's the challenge.
Yeah. Just very quickly before we go, Andrew, your old boss, Scott Morrison, his old seat of Cook, there's a by-election to replace him. Labor's reportedly thinking of running. Do you think there's going to be any sort of swing against the coalition here?
No, it's a waste of time, Labor running in this seat. I mean, the margin's down to about 6%, but that's overhyped. Before that, it was roughly around 14%. It is a waste of time. I mean, the Shire is just so different to any other area in Australia. They are deeply passionate about their country. They have always voted to the right of centre, and you'll see that that happen this time with an increased margin.
An increased margin, there you go. All right, well, Andrew Carswell, Basil Zempilas, thank you both so much for joining me.